Hey everybody, Steve B here at the UPR Garage, and we're working on our UPR Project 2024 Mustang. And what we're going to do today is differential insert bushings. What are they? What do they do? Your differential is housed in the cradle in the back of your S550 or S650 Mustang, and you have a rubber bushing on all four corners here. And they're great because they absorb a lot of vibration and they give you a great ride. But performance applications will greatly benefit by tightening that up and reducing the deflection and the movement of the carrier of the differential here. So in a drag strip application or performance handling application, you're going to want to make those bushings firmer, and this allows you to do that without removing the bushings. And I'll show you how that's actually done. There's 4 of them. There's going to be 2 at the back. So we have 1 here and 1 on the opposite side. And there's 2 in the front of the cradle, and they're sandwiched between the gas tank and the differential. Now this can be done in the driveway with jack stands, although if you have a lift, highly recommend it. The exhaust is much better if the exhaust is out of the way. You can drop the exhaust some and still get the job done. We're going to take the exhaust off, we're going to take this panel off and get this all started, and we got a little surprise at the end for you. All right, so to do the job of the differential insert bushings, you're going to need a couple tools. First, most important, jack and jack stands. Make sure you're safe. Secondly, you're going to need a torque wrench. You're going to need a couple of ratchets, like a 1/2-inch drive and a 1/4-inch drive. You're going to need a 21mm socket, a 22mm socket, a 15mm socket, an 18mm socket, a 10, and a 7. I would have a 13mm wrench to get the exhaust clamps loose, a 22mm wrench, and an 18mm wrench, ratcheting preferred if you have it. Pry bar, you'll see this is going to be for helping to get the bolt started in the front differential bushing, so the pry bar helps. The gray grease that you'll find on Amazon, energy suspension grease or Urethane. This is silicone-based, non-petroleum grease. You find it at any parts store too. And last but not least, this job level of difficulty, small box of cuss words. Not a big box, not your dad's cuss words. A couple cuss words will help you through this job. Let's get started. So UPR has a couple options when it comes to your differential insert bushings. So the differential inserts going into that bushing, we have urethane or we have the billet. And the urethane actually comes with the red urethane, which is a little bit softer, or the black urethane, which is going to be firmer. And of course the billet's going to be solid. So I would say this is going to be like your street or street strip, your street strip autocross, high performance, or stick shift application, because stick shift's going to have a lot more movement in that carrier, or your race style. So your solid is going to transmit more NVH, more noise, vibration, harshness into the cabin, and going softer is going to give you less of that. This car being going to be more of an aggressive street strip kind of build, we're going to go right to the black urethane on this one. We're going to start by removing the rear cover here, and it's just a couple of 7mm screws along the back, a 10mm in the center, and then a couple of little push pins that we're going to just pop out real quick. All right, so we're just going to remove this panel here. And the next thing, that's going to allow you to access the rear differential bushings as well as the exhaust hangers to get the exhaust out of the way. All right, so we've gone ahead and taken the bolts out of the exhaust. What's kind of nice is that the rear hangers here have a little hook so they holds it up. But you got some 13mm bolts. There's 2 per hanger at the back of the muffler, 2 here, and then 15mm nuts up here at the front of the, at the rear of the catalytic converter pipes. So we're going to lift this up, move it back, and remove the exhaust to give us room to do the differential inserts.
Okay, I'm clear in the front. Okay. And these have a little hook on them as well.
So the rear hangers have a hook that you just gotta release. And it's good having help to do this to get it all off. So now that the exhaust is out of the way, we have a lot more easy access to our differential bushings in the rear. So we're gonna go ahead and knock these out real quick. And then what we'll do is we're gonna need to loosen the cradle bolts, lower the cradle down some to tilt this down to get to the front differential bushings easier because the inserts go in the front between the tank and the bushing. So the differential bushing bolts are 18 millimeter. And what I would do is just do one at a time. It's gonna make it easier. You just kind of zip one out. And you're not gonna reuse this bolt. Okay, so your differential bushing insert, again, you've got your bushing, you have your spacer or your large thick washer is gonna go in between. The bolt's gonna go through, your large washer and your lock washer. That's all gonna go up into the differential bushing. The factory bushing stays in place. This basically acts as a lockout. So when this goes in place and it all squishes in, it's gonna effectively firm up that bushing, making it kind of a hybrid rubber urethane bushing. One tech tip that I like to do is anytime you're installing urethane bushings, get yourself, this is easy to find on Amazon, the gray grease from Energy or Prothane. This is a silicone-based grease. It's very important not to use a petroleum-based grease with any kind of urethane. It'll eat the urethane. So, not that I think this will have much noise, but a little bit of lubricant goes a long way. I'm gonna pop all this up in there and get the bolt started. And as you can see, I have the differential carrier just lightly supported to keep it in place while I do this. It really doesn't move much when you take the bolt out, but it's just a precaution for safety. So the replacement bolts here from UPR, that's gonna be a 22 millimeter size. And you just wanna run this in so that it's gonna basically squash into the factory bushing. Now I'm just using a standard wrench here because it's just a little too tight to the spare tire carrier to be able to get the socket and an extension in there. So just gonna run this in, then we'll tighten up with the gun, and then we'll double check the torque specs when we're done. So the rear differential bushing inserts are gonna insert into the rear differential bushings. Once they're tight, you're gonna tighten these to 129 foot-pounds. That's done. Now you can move on to the front, and yeah, you can gain some more room if you want to drop the back of the cradle here. Certainly can do that. What I'm gonna do for the front is I am gonna drop the cradle to give me more access to the front of this bolt. And got a little trick there to help you put that together. If you don't have a lot of room to drop this, we do have a little tech tip on how to get that in there. So as you can see on our UPR Mustang, we already have the cradle brace kit on here. So we're gonna remove this, the two 13 millimeter bolts. Then the 21 millimeter bolts we're going to loosen. And we're gonna do this in a manner basically with the pole jacks, or if you're on your driveway with a floor jack, you're gonna loosen them at one at a time. Don't take them all the way out, because that's gonna help to hold the cradle in the car. You're gonna lower this down so it gains you a little bit more room to work with the differential bushings. What we're going to do is just loosen these a little at a time per side. So that's going to give us about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. And then we're going to lower the pole jack until it touches the bolt. And if we need more, we'll loosen it again. Okay, so what we've done is we've gained some more room to be able to work with the differential bushing here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this up with one of the pole jacks. I'm going to transfer the other pole jack to the pinion here. Again, just to kind of support this. We did not take these bolts out. These bolts are still in. It's just giving us a little bit more room to work. And let me mention, I am not an ASAE certified technician. I am not a Ford technician. I'm a guy who's done this stuff for many, many years just on my own. Had great training from my dad, of course, and a lot of great friends. But this goes to show you can do this on your own. Be careful, be safe, and take your time to do it right. Now, this is a 18mm bolt, and these are gonna be kind of tight. So if you're doing this at home and you don't have a big breaker bar, an old school trick is to take 2 wrenches, put your box end over your open end, and use that for leverage to break that bolt loose. So when you get the front differential bolt out, you're going to put in the UPR bolt, and it's going to be a medium length bolt with a washer. So this is going to work in such a way where it's kind of like what they call a sister bolt, and you're going to have a long bolt and a short bolt. This being kind of a long collar, this bolt's going to thread in, and this is going to thread in this way. So the first step is to take the long factory bolt out, put this medium bolt back in, do that on both sides, and then we're going to work on the short bolts in the front. Okay, so the front bushing, when you get the cradle lowered, the front bushing is going to go into the differential bushing and insert, obviously, and then the bolt is going to go in. Okay, so we get the bushing, the large washer, the bolt, and don't forget the spacer in the middle. A little bit of that gray grease holds the spacer and everything. Once you have this drop down enough, you're going to push this in between the fuel tank and the cradle and get this pushed in. Now, the fuel tank has this aluminum cover on the outside. It's a heat shield, and it's okay to push on that some. Obviously, I wouldn't pry against it, but you want to get this down low enough so that you can get this in. It's going to be a very tight fit, but with a little bit of persuasion, it'll pop in. Getting the screw started, the bolt started, you're going to need to push in on it. And what I've done there is I'm going to use a screwdriver and the wrench. And I'm going to put the wrench up in here, position it so I can get this started. The screwdriver, we're just going to put a light amount of pressure to get it to go into the thread and get that started. All right, so once you get this bolt started, and again, like I said, use a screwdriver or a pry bar or whatever you have, you just want to put light pressure on the head of the bolt and turn the bolt to get it started. What you're doing is you're trying to push the bolt into the bushing and into that thread just enough to get it started. And I can't get my hands up in there, so that's why I'm using this with light pressure. Really not even enough to bend the aluminum very much. Once you get that started, you're going to go ahead and tighten this. Now, as you can see, it's pretty impossible to get a torque wrench or to get this up in here if you're doing this in your driveway and you're not dropping the cradle out. So 129 foot-pounds, after you do the last two, probably have a pretty good feel for it. Get this as tight as you can get it. And if you have a friend with a torque wrench with one of the extensions that can do it and double check it when it's done, it'll be actually pretty easy to do on a lift. Click, as they say. So to wrap up, with the differential insert bushings. This is kind of a quick guide, give you an idea of how to install it. Again, you can do it on your driveway with jack stands and a jack and a friend to help you, or on a lift to do it a little bit easily. So once you have everything torqued up, differential bushings back in, it's going to help to keep the carrier in place and not flopping all around when you're doing hard launches or coming out of a corner really hard. And at this point, this is where we would put the stock exhaust back on. But you know what? We're not going to do that. We upgraded. Full 3-inch MBRP stainless exhaust. Why MBRP? We just love the way it sounds. There's a lot of great exhausts out there today, but MBRP has a great sound to it, and we're going to show you. We also chose the carbon tips with the polished inner part here, with the polished stainless, to complement our new Forge Line wheels. This is going to look really great, and we're going to put this on right now. So once you get everything back together, put the rear pan back on, everything is tightened. The MBRP exhaust is installed, so 3-inch stainless MBRP exhaust. Resonator delete. It's 3-inch all the way back. There's no, neck down, neck back up. Beautiful exhaust, fit beautiful, went on like a breeze. We have the carbon tips with the polish center to match the wheels. We're ready to take this for a ride.
Smooth, mellow tone.
Yes, you know you have an exhaust, but it's not overbearing. It's actually got a nice tone to it over stock, and we can have a normal conversation and not have to raise your voice at all. You don't have that, that robot interference you have sometimes. You have the droning muffler, where it makes your voice sound funny when you're talking to people. It doesn't have that at all.
It's not raspy and harsh the way some of the kits are.
No, it's definitely not the Mustang Week Special. Oh, for sure is a weight savings going to this exhaust. Yeah, that resonator has got to be several pounds heavier. But going to this exhaust, weight savings, sound quality.
Looks great too with those tips.
Oh, those tips really complement the wheels. Great performance sound. So with the other improvements we did today with the differential bushing inserts, you're going to see reduced wheel hop or reduced axle tromp. Basically, that rear differential is going to be much more stable. If you listen real quiet, and I'll be quiet, on light cruise, light tip-in cruise, you're going to notice a little bit more driveline noise. That's normal because now you've taken some of the cushion out of those bushings that insulates that noise from the driveline into the interior. So you're going to hear a little bit more of that, and to me, that's another performance sound.
So that wraps up the installation of our differential bushing kit and the MBRP catback on our 2024 Mustang. Stay tuned for more installation videos from UPR Products. Thanks.